Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Carole Lindstrom, helping us celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day and celebrating her book, We Are Water Protectors.
Hey, Jed, I'm so excited to talk about our Solve It for Kids podcast, which is a great way for teachers and parents to get their kids excited about science and STEM, don't you think?
I do. We need some really fantastic scientists, engineers, astronauts, aquanauts, artists. They're telling us amazing things. And like you were saying, getting kids excited. I think that is the first step to helping them learn.
Exactly. And what we're teaching them about is STEM careers. Maybe these are jobs that they might think are really cool to do. And some of them are unexpected.
And you have another resource for families. You're creating these teacher packs, right?
Right. So what we've done is we are starting to take all of the podcasts and make teacher packs, which you can find on Teachers Pay Teachers. Look us up at Solve It for Kids on Teacher Pay Teachers, and we have a questionnaire that kids will fill out. They can draw pictures, all of these kinds of things, and it's all aligned to either Common Core or NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards.
And there's also little mini podcast episodes that kids can listen to. Remind everybody where they can find out more about this great resource, Jennifer.
Check us out on Solve It for Kids at Teachers Pay Teachers. You can also find us through the website, solveitforkids.com.
Joining us on the line right now from right outside of Washington, D.C. She is in the wonderful state of Maryland. She's the author of a beautiful book called We Are Water Protectors. Please welcome to the show, Carole Lindstrom. Carole, how are you?
I'm very good today. Thanks so much for asking, and thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to have you on the show. My initial motivation for inviting you is that we wanted to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, and I think that this is a great way to do it, talking about We Are Water Protectors. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Well, it was inspired really by really Standing Rock, the movement to protect the water there, and really all Indigenous peoples fight for clean water, because most tribal nations, mine is the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe, and my tribe is in North Dakota, and my tribe as well is fighting, pipelines and, extraction. So that really was what drove me to write the book, because I just wanted to tell it in a more, version that children could understand and make it accessible.
So let's talk about that. There are there seems to be this conflict of cultures, a clash of cultures that the larger culture of America needs more oil, more water, and sometimes they don't seem to care about where they get it from or who they might be hurting in their effort to get that.
Yes, that's true. But and who they're hurting is really themselves, because as we all know, they need water to live. Water is life. We can't drink oil, but we need water. We have to have it. We have to have clean water. And so, there are ways to have meet energy needs, while also providing for a clean environment, for water, for all of the living things to have, a clean place to live, like they deserve and like we deserve. So it's possible. And children know that, and they get that with this book, I really find. They understand that, we can't keep doing what we're doing to the planet and continue this way. So it's just a way to look at things and see the world through different eyes and through a different mindset of, of not through plants and trees and animals and water, which are also a relative. So, yeah.
It seems like it should be instinctual. As you were saying, kids know this. Kids know that we have to take care of the water, that we need clean water and we need clean spaces. Where do you think that the rest of folks, where do you think that grown-ups who run corporations, when did they lose that?
Well, I think that there's just a focus on money. I think there's just such a, success is, so I think a lot of it may be tied when we think we're successful. The first thought in I think grown-ups' mind is then, will you make a lot of money? But that is not what successful means. That's not what successful means to me, what it means to Indigenous peoples that I know. And also not non-Indigenous. There's very many non-Native people that feel the same way I do, where, success means, to me that you certainly have to leave the planet better off than when you came, that you don't take more than you need, that you give back when you do, that you always do things mindfully of, as a Native person, we look at the next 7 generations. So I think about is what I do. How does that affect the next 7 generations? That's a long way to think into the future. And I think if you start thinking that way, that just goes without saying that your mindset changes.
I was not aware that a lot of Native people are thinking 7 generations ahead. Can you expand? Because I love it, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that. I'm hoping at one day to be able to meet and hold my grandkids. I know my great grandmother was alive. So we had at one time 4 generations of our family together. But wow, 7 generations. That's how do you how do you get there? What's that like when you're thinking of 7 generations in your future? What are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't necessarily think of it in terms of, people. I mean, I know all I think of is, future really. That is what that means to me. When I hear 7 generations in the future, that just means that, there will be people coming after me. There will be, there will be relations and relatives that are coming after I do, and they don't necessarily have to be blood relations. Because as a Native, we are all related. Right. So we're just thinking of in the future, what does this planet look like for my children's or your children's 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 children? You kind of just. To me, you have to just think of, like I said, you just think of how can I leave this planet better? What is the least impact I can have on it? And am I always thinking mindfully about it when I'm out in it? So, to me, I don't know. It just seems like part of life. It's second nature, I guess, to think that way.
Well, one of the things that we've talked a lot about here on the podcast is just the importance of getting kids out into nature. It seems especially challenging these days because kids, there are so many distractions. It's especially hard right now because of the pandemic. But just before the pandemic, kids' attention, they have the phones and the video games and the laptops and the televisions, and we're going from one place to another in a vehicle. We're not even walking all that much anymore. What value do you see? What can we do, you and I do, to convince parents to really work to get their kids out into nature more often?
Well, I just think now really is the perfect time, actually, with the pandemic in a way, because I know for me and my family, we are outside a lot more than, I mean, we like to be outside a lot anyway, but I find just, I think when kids are taken out in nature and they're just shown, the world through different eyes, like with my son, it just could be something as simple as leaves or whatever, just always being observant. I guess that's the thing that I like to stress, and which I think, and children they are like sponges, and to them it's a new place maybe, to be outside so much. So, looking at it as an investigation or, where you're observing new things and can we find this and what do you think this was and whose footprint was this? And, I just think that, we again have to change the mindset kind of how we approach things and how we present things to kids too. And that, being outside, even though it's hot, there's things to do, and maybe we're in a city or perhaps we are in the school or wherever we are and we don't have access to a lot of outdoors, but we can get outside. There's probably a little park or there are trees or there's birds and, there's ways to connect with even in the night sky, looking at the stars, water, we all have water, even the water that comes out of our fountain. I always tell children when I talk about water protectors to them is I tell the water that comes out of my fountain in the morning, thank you. A lot of times I will say, I appreciate you for being here and giving me this gift of really, I mean, what would we do without it? It's like always there, but we take it for granted. So I think sometimes just being mindful of little, the things we do take for granted, like the water that comes out of our faucet.
One of the things that struck me about We Are Water Protectors is the very first line, to me, is very powerful. The very first line of the book is, water is the first medicine. Yeah. Where did that inspiration come from?
Well, just Native people. I mean, that's just something I know that is how water is felt. Water is sacred. In Anishinaabe or Ojibwe cultures like mine, Ojibwe women are the water keepers and the Ojibwe men are the fire keepers. And so there's just this innate kind of I don't know, like this connection, I think, because I certainly felt connected when I wrote this story. And, I think that the first line, water, we come from water. I mean, we do, right? I mean, inside of our mother's bodies, we are inside water. Water is everything. We need it. Our mother needs it to survive. We need it to live. So it's just, to me, I don't know, just, it seems like it just is sacred. And yeah, I don't know where it came from. Yeah. Just out of me.
Well, it makes perfect sense. We are, we're born in water. We need water. We are water. I think it's 60%, 65% of our body is water. So that makes perfect sense. If you don't mind, I'd love to talk a little bit just about your, you mentioned your tribe. It's Ojibwe?
Ojibwe.
Ojibwe. I've always been fascinated with native cultures. I don't know that much about it. My great grandmother used to say that we were part of descended from the Abenaki here in New England, but we were never part of any tribe or any customs or what's it like being a part of a tribe while you're also living here in the United States?
What do you mean living in not in my tribal lands? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because I know as a Native American, you are a citizen of your tribe. I think I understand that you're a citizen of your tribe, but you're also a citizen of this country.
Yes, correct. That's correct. I don't know. It's always just been, the way it was. I mean, I did not grow up on my mother grew up in North Dakota, so she grew up on the reservation, and she moved to Nebraska and met my father, moved to Nebraska, and so I was not born there. And my grandmother was forcibly forced to an Indian boarding school. And so I grew up not really knowing who I was. My mother would tell me, we're Ojibwe, we're also Métis, but I didn't know any of what really that meant, and she wasn't really very good at articulating it, I think, because, again, we had an Indian boarding school. So then when my grandma came back, she wasn't allowed to speak her language. There was so much shame in being Native American, and so a lot of racism. So my mother just, it was something you didn't want to be. And so I grew up very, not really sure who I was. I knew she was proud of it, but because my mother was, full blooded, but I just didn't understand enough till I got older. And now my mother's passed now several years, and I wish I could tell her these things that I know now and I understand about who we are and who I am, that I could never fill in those blanks before. So writing has helped with that, I say, because it's helped me find out more about myself, even things that are hard to find out about, the way our ancestors were treated and so forth.
I think that's one of the things that's really important for us to understand, is that Native peoples really were mistreated very, very badly, broken treaties and forced on reservations and forced to give up their language. I can't imagine, you were talking earlier on about thinking 7 generations ahead. I'm wondering, is it ever difficult with you thinking about what happened to your ancestors just 2 generations ago or 3 generations ago?
Oh gosh, it's even me. I mean, I have experienced many racist episodes. I mean, I can't even tell you how many. So, it's just part of living in this area is very difficult. What had been for a while with the Washington football team, as I'm sure you know, the racial slur that they were calling themselves. Sure. So that was very hard for me to see and to hear and to just deal with, because people don't realize how painful that is. It's like a knife just stabbed in your heart. And, it's to the point where you don't even want to go out on Sunday when people are going to be wearing these things. And, why should it's, really, this is our land, they're on stolen land. And to act like this just, it's so painful. So, yeah, I was married before, and I went through a lot of racist stuff there too. So yeah, it's not easy to write these stories, and I tell people that a lot too, because in a lot of, at least, and I'm sure most people of color and Indigenous people will tell you that it's difficult sometimes, depending on what their subject matter is. But because you're really reliving a lot of this stuff, and you're having to go through these memories and feelings. It's very hard, I think, sometimes for me to write certain things. It takes longer than I'd like it to, I guess.
One of the things we've talked about here in the show a lot about is how important it is for kids of different colors to see themselves, different cultures, to see themselves represented positively in the pages of the books that they're reading as kids, or that they're having read to them as kids. How important is it, do you think, for non-Native American kids to be able to see positive images of Native Americans and Native American culture being shared in the pages of kids' books?
Oh, for sure. Way, way important, just like that windows and mirrors thing, like you're saying, children that are Native need to see themselves reflected back, but children that are not Native need to see that Native children are still all around them. They just may not know it. They're a vibrant part of society. We are everywhere. We're contemporary. We're living, we're doing things. A lot of, so I think there's a misconception, that we are living in the past or we're all gone. I've heard that so many times. I thought you were all dead. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many people have said that to me. It's like, but no, we're here. It's just, a lot of, schools stopped teaching about Native people after the 1900s. So that right there is understandable to think of like, well, where did you all go? Well, we've always been here. Mm-hmm. We're still here. We're always going to be here. So it's important for them to see, and there are a lot of great books coming out, as I'm sure you've seen, from Native authors that are just really amazing books, showcasing and showing Native peoples today. So it's really very encouraging.
Is it important for kids to, because we hear this, the phrase is Indigenous people, Native Americans, as if all these different tribes are just one group. Am I wrong? The customs between different tribes and cultures are very different. Am I right about that?
Yes, you're very right, yes.
Yeah.
There's 574 federally recognized tribes, but there's probably over 1,000 tribes still, in what is North America. And, we all are different. The cultures, the way the ceremonies are, the, clothing, the regalia, just everything is different. There probably are similarities with Ojibways for sure. I can't speak about, a lot of different tribes, just I don't know a lot about others. But, so and that's the thing, we're not all just a homogenous group of people. We're all different and we live in different parts of the, what is North America here. So, and depending on where you live, different foods would have been important to you. Like if you live along the coast, along Washington State, fish and seafood. And so you'll see a lot, you see that incorporated in, a lot of, that's their lifestyle. Their livelihood depends upon the ocean. So like the illustrator of We Are Water Protectors, she lives in Alaska. She's Tlingit. And, so the sea is very much a part of her life. And you can see that in her color palette. I think she's, cool colors of the water and the ocean are very much a part of her, So yeah, there's so many that and we're all different, like you said. Yeah, it's very important to note that because I think a lot of people think that we're just all one people and we all practice the same, we all have the same creation stories, but we don't. We're all different.
Well, I started to become sensitive to that when I married my wife, whose family is originally from Puerto Rico, and prior to that, it was Spanish people. Oh, yeah, Spanish people. And it didn't matter if you were from Cuba or South America, Central America. And one of the things that was so wonderful for me is when I started to understand that there was this beautiful collection of cultures and traditions in countries where Spanish is spoken. It really opened up my eyes, and it was something that I could really celebrate and embrace and really come to love.
Yes, exactly. And that's just a matter of not knowing, really not being aware. And I think once you are, it's just like, hello, now I know. And so I think that's a lot of it with the same thing with Native cultures. And, once people are aware and understand and have an idea of this, it's just more like, okay, now I'm starting to see, So, and it's good to see, like I said, the books coming out now and celebrating that. So. I'm glad to see that.
You mentioned your illustrator. We should give her a shout out and mention her name.
Yes, Michaela Goad. She's she's a wonderful. We've become very good friends, and she's just amazingly talented. I'm so fortunate to have worked with her on this book.
Yes, the pictures are absolutely spectacular. I do love the colors. There's a lot of blue, which is not surprising in a book about water, and blue is my favorite color, and it's just really, really beautiful. You were mentioning to me before the show, Carole, that We Are Water Protectors is getting some great recognition, and you're a finalist for, was it the 2020 Kirkus Award?
Yes, yeah, finalist for the 2020 Kirkus Prize. I can't believe I just nominated for that. So I'm overwhelmed that Michaela and the book has been so well received, and yeah, it's just, I'm very grateful and humbled, really.
Yeah. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to let us know where we can go to learn more about you and your books. But if there's a family out there that when they're finished reading We Are Water Protectors for the first time, because this is a book that families are going to want to sit down and read over and over again. In fact, I think this is a great book to take a picture walk through and just kind of not even read, just go through the pictures and look at them. But if someone was motivated, a family was motivated to learn more about about your tribe and about different Native tribes, is there a place where they can go to learn that information?
Well, it's hard to say because each tribal nation, will have their own website.
Uh-huh.
My tribal nation is the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians, which is also Ojibwe thing. So they could look that up and search the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe Indians, which is in North Dakota. But like I said, it's probably best if they're going to want to look up nations to make sure it's actually the tribe's website officially, because you want to just be sure that information that you're getting is accurate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we also want to let people know where they can go online to connect with you and find out more about you and your work.
Oh, well, you can go to my website, which I'm terribly slow at updating, but it's CaroleLindstrom.com. Also, you can find me on Twitter. It's at Carole Lindstrom. I'm often on there. And then, if you go to Macmillan's website where my book is, there is a really wonderful activity kit that Macmillan has put together. And there's like some pledge stuff, some activities for kids to do. So that's all free. So, they're welcome to go there as well and download all that activity. And there's, like I said, just some really fun things to do about water and just fun.
Yeah. We've had a really fun time talking to the author of We Are Water Protectors, Carole Lindstrom. Carole, thank you so much for sharing so much with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it and had a really great time.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be New York Times best-selling author Brad Meltzer. He will be here to celebrate his Ordinary People Change the World series. This is a really, really great series. We're going to meet the two latest additions to the book. I am Benjamin Franklin, and I am Anne Frank. If you're an author of a great children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest is fun. It's easy. It doesn't cost a thing, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the author's Click Here button, and then click down to our Be a Guest on the show. Find out all about it. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Carole Lindstrom. Be sure to check out We Are Water Protectors. I want to thank my incredible team, starting with my amazing daughter, Alejandra Doherty, my producer, Fatima Khan, my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio, but most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.